The enthusiasm which I can foresee definitely encourage us to take constructive steps and to deliver what is required in the universal acceptance. Mr. Tom Curtis, Sabinan Gupta ji, Santosh ji, and our secretary who will be joining us in a short while. Along with them, I welcome you all. And on behalf of NICSI, I would say that there will be enough efforts which is being made by NICSI, but they are incomplete without the contribution of stakeholders. Stakeholders like CDAC, NIC, ICANN, and all other part of universal acceptance, including Ministry of Culture and Ministry of MSME. We will build a universal acceptance resilient country. I would like to say that there had been a great steps which has been taken by NICSI in past 2 years, starting from global organization of Global UA Day. We had traveled a lot. I would like to share that currently we had 3.80 lakhs of IDNs which has been allocated by NICSI to the various organizations or the individuals. So this is a significant progress which we are making. We are working with NIC as well as CDAC, and in the recent meeting it was decided to further profile the intrusion of universal acceptance across the government organizations. Apart from government organizations, we are also reaching out to other universities, other private sectors to be part of our universal acceptance drive.
Domain names, email addresses, irrespective of script, language, or length, are accepted, validated, stored, processed, and displayed correctly by all internet-enabled applications, devices, and systems. But as we heard, in implementing this universal acceptance does require concerted efforts to update existing systems, ensuring recognition, and to support the really wide diversity of scripts spoken and written worldwide. And this endeavor enhances, of course, internet accessibility and usability, and therefore also I would enhances overall well-being of the population at large. In October 2003, when UNESCO adopted the recommendation concerning the promotion and use of multilingualism and universal access to cyberspace, it was estimated that approximately 10.5% of the world's population, meaning 608 million individuals at the time, were internet users. By the end of 2022, so 2 decades later, the number had been estimated to have surged to 5.3 billion users worldwide, representing 66% of the global population. So that is a huge growth. But yet, despite this exponential growth, linguistic diversity online remains quite limited. As of January 2025, English language dominates the web, constituting an estimated 49.3% of content of the web. So almost half of the web's content is one language. And we estimate about 4,000 to 5,000 languages still being spoken in the world today. The next prevalent languages are Spanish, German, Japanese, and French. And collectively, these languages with English account for about 70% of online content. So that is, a handful of languages are now accounting for about 70% of online content. We heard numbers in India. The ITU, International Telecommunication Union, in 2022 reported that approximately 55.9% of India's population, 760 million people, use the internet. But the numbers I heard this morning seem that in the last 3 years that has grown still more, and what I heard is we're getting to around billion, making it the largest or second largest online market globally. And yet we know that there are still barriers. Even as there's progress, there's still barriers in India. The 2011 census of India recognized 1,369 mother tongues spoken in the country. So there is still a lot to go. And the ability to access digital platforms in one's native language is really essential for full participation today in society, as we heard from the Secretary of Métis. India, I think, as was said, if we think globally, what happens in India is of importance and impact globally. If India gets it right, this will have reverberations around the world, and I think this is what was said by the Secretary and the former speakers. And this is really important because India has such a large population, almost a quarter of the world's population, and almost a quarter of the world's languages spoken here. So,
to be honest, I don't know how much I can empower you through just my words, but I think in a number of ways, what we are observing today as the National Universal Acceptance Day can be truly empowering. Sometimes the steps needed to do this seem to be very simple and seem to be very small, but they end up being the most critical blocks in the path for actual access for everybody to something which we take for granted as technology to which we have access to, both in terms of our ability to speak languages, in terms of which part of the country we come from, whether it is urban based, it depends on age, it depends on a number of factors, education. So the exclusionary factors can be quite a few, and fundamentally we need to work towards greater inclusion, something which in the initial stages of popularizing the internet was less of a concern, but now that it has become so popular, it is significantly more of a concern. And it is a concern for the precise reasons which is outlined in the video. Of course, one element of that are the real positive developments which can reach people much more easily, where increasingly digital first or digital only are becoming modes in which government outreach happens. And when you have more of digital first and digital only, then ensuring that languages don't become a barrier, particularly in a multilingual country like India, for people to reach that, and technology doesn't become a barrier. We need to simplify this as much as possible. As programmers, as people who inhabit the digital world, many of us marvel at the fact that increasingly a lot of things are no code or low code. We're making life easy for ourselves. But what about making life easy for people who find that first step most difficult to take? I think the mountain that they have to climb is significantly larger than the mountain that the digitally empowered or digitally knowledgeable people have to climb. And I think that is a critical step, and that is the importance of the event today, and that is the importance of this particular effort. I think it is a hugely inclusionary effort, and it is very significant in terms of what the policy objectives of the government of India are and what the policy objectives of Métis itself are, that we need to be much more inclusionary in the way that we operate and democratize technology, enable access to technology for a lot more people. And increasingly, as more of it is digital driven and technology driven, we have to ensure that people don't get excluded by any kind of means. And this is something which becomes extremely critical in this fashion. And that is, I think, the way that, this whole movement towards universal acceptance. We had the first Global Universal Acceptance Day, which we celebrated in 2023. We move forward, and we are doing this in terms of internationalized domain names, which was illustrated in that video, something that we are pushing hard towards, and we have launched through NIXI, and NIXI has been making this effort on a consistent basis to make that happen. Likewise, our own initiative in the Ministry of through Bhashini, which is a way by which, interchangeably across multiple languages, we are able to communicate with each other. these measures are, the Bhashini engines are being applied to a number of applications of government entities and in certain cases even private entities to enable seamless translation from one language to another and enable people to access services in the language of their choice and language of their preference. I think that's become a very critical element. The inclusion part of it, and it's not just a matter of pride. It is, I think that's where we make the mistake. The inclusion is critical in terms of actually ensuring benefits that we see on an everyday basis are available to a much larger cross-section of people. People who don't necessarily speak comfortably in English, who don't understand English, who want to look at other ways in which they can access it. And more important than that, one of course is the ease of access. The other part of it is, as you have more and more cybercrime and as you have more and more digital crime, it also makes them significantly safer. And I think that is something that we owe as a duty, to make the internet significantly safer for a wider cross-section of people. Because ultimately, please do remember that a lot of cybercrime, in its elemental way, is nothing but a con game. It's nothing but a confidence trick. It's basically based on information asymmetry. Somebody is exploiting the fact that, you're just making somebody believe something is true which is not true. And you have to bridge that information asymmetry. And the only way you can bridge that kind of information asymmetry is by making sure it's in a language that they clearly understand.